Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Jordan and this is the start of a weekly reading vlog. Obviously, you can tell that by the title, but this is gonna be a little different from most reading vlogs that I do. Usually when I vlog, I am reading like a certain theme or I'll be vlogging for a specific readathon, but this is basically just gonna be like a daily life or a weekly life random reading vlog. My family is actually going camping this weekend, and so I thought that would be fun to film. And then after that, we are spending a few days with my husband's family. So we should be doing generally, more fun stuff than we do on the daily basis. But I thought it would be fun to just bring the camera along, do a little bit different style of a vlog. It will probably be more of like the daily life stuff, the random things we're up to each day, a little bit more than like actually reading. That being said, I will be reading because this month, the online book club that I'm part of is doing like a TBR game, and I'm pretty competitive, so I want to keep reading to be able to keep getting points for that and to support my team and everything like that. But it's unique in that it is based on reading prompts, but I don't know what they are until I get them. So I have no plan of specifically what books I will be reading this coming week. I will probably be bringing a few physical books along with me in hopes that they fit the prompts and that I get to read them, but it will probably also be a lot of audiobook listening. So I just wanted to start this vlog off now. It is Wednesday today. We are leaving tomorrow, so we still have a lot of packing to do for the kids and us, and we have a camper. So like I said, not sure how much I'll be popping in with my thoughts on books. Might just be at the end. We'll see, but hopefully it'll be fun for you to kind of follow us around on this week as we go on a road trip. You guys, update time. It is actually Monday today, so we are done camping for the weekend. It was a really fun time camping with my family, just catching up with some extended family and some relatives that we haven't seen in a while. We just did a lot of playing games, catching up, a little bit of four-wheeling. It is Monday now. We are going to be spending most of this week at my husband's parents' house. Since we don't see them all that often, we thought we'd spend this week up here before I go back to work next week. So this is kind of the last relaxing week I have before going back to work. I have have been reading a bit. So I think, like I mentioned, I'm playing a TBR game or challenge this month, and so I'm not totally in control of the books that I'm reading. So I have 2 books to talk about that I was not anticipating reading really ever, but the first book that I have already finished is the first book in the Bridgerton series. For this TBR game, I got the prompt to read a historical romance book, and I had asked around for suggestions and gotten a few suggestions that I was actually pretty interested in, but I wanted to pick a book that I could read on audio and for free through either Scribd or Hoopla, although I know Scribd isn't free, but I already pay for that subscription. So I wanted an audiobook through one of those 2 services, and none of the quote-unquote good historical romances that I was finding were on there, but this series was on Hoopla. So I read the first book, Bridgerton, or actually the first book is called The Duke and I by Julia Quinn, I think. And I mean, to keep my thoughts short and sweet, it's just not for me. I mean, I expected historical romance to not be for me. I don't enjoy romance really as it is, and nothing about historical eras really call to me or intrigue me at all. When I started the book, I did kind of enjoy that it's about like all of these siblings. I liked reading about those sibling dynamics and them being, you know, protective over one another and things like that. But the actual romance, definitely not my thing. There is a scene in this book as well that is pretty problematic. A lot of people have issue with it, dealing with like rape and consent. I also didn't enjoy that, and so I'm giving this book 2 stars. No intention of reading the rest of the series, no intention of watching the TV show, nothing like that. I guess it's just one of those books that now I can say I've read, and so I'll go with that. The second book I have to talk about is After by Anna Todd. Another one I had no intentions of reading ever. After is a contemporary romance book, I guess, about these 2 college students, and the guy, from my understanding, is supposed to be Harry Styles. I think this book was originally written on Wattpad. It was fan fiction and then got turned into a book and then somehow turned into a movie. I don't know. I've heard nothing but kind of terrible things about it, just that it's super cheesy, not a good quality book. I have started this. I'm really early on. It's following our main character in her freshman year of college, at the very beginning of her freshman year of college, and she's very much like a good girl who never drank or broke the rules or anything in high school, and she's getting exposed to all of that in college. So far, nothing about it is making me like, ooh, this is terrible, but it's also just very like kind of generic feeling. I don't know. I guess just kind of like a fan fiction, like a daydream you would have or something about characters. That's all for my reading update. Tonight, actually in just a few minutes, I'm actually going to a bookstore. I'm going to meet up with one of my Bookstagram friends, Marisha. I don't know if she watches my booktube videos, but if you do, hey, really excited to meet up with you. We're gonna go to a bookstore and just chat and kind of catch up. We actually went to the same college, and I'm really interested to hear what she's up to. And while at the bookstore, I'm sure I will buy 1 or 2 books, and so I will pop back on here afterwards to show you and tell you what I got. So that's the plan, at least for the evening. Not really sure what the rest of the week entails yet, but I will keep you updated and pull you along for the ride. Okay, I'm back. Let's see if I can get the shadows to not be weird. I have a book haul. So that was a super cute little bookstore. I think it's relatively new in this area where I'm from. And they had this super cool policy or deal where if you buy a brand new book from them, you get a used book for free. So naturally, I bought 3 brand new books and 3 used books. So let's go ahead and show them to you. So the first one I got is a book that I am seeing everywhere. It's We Were Never Here by Andrea Bartz. I've seen this cover everywhere on Bookstagram and Booktube because it's beautiful, obviously. It's also a Reese's Book Club pick, which always intrigues me. This is a mystery thriller, I believe, about 2 girls who go on a trip together and someone ends up dead. Not one of them, someone else ends up dead, and it sounds like that's also happened before on one of their trips. A really interesting sounding mystery thriller that I'm excited to read. That was a brand new book. Then I also bought a new book called Unearthed by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. I had never heard of this before, but it sounds like it's a YA sci-fi type book. I've said a few times on my channel that I'm interested in sci-fi, YA, and adult, and so I'm really excited to check this out and to further refine my sci-fi tastes. And then the third new book that I got was a total impulse buy. I saw this at the front like counter when I was checking out and I had to buy it. It's called How to Resist Amazon and Why. It is a really tiny little book, but as an Amazon employee, I was really intrigued to read this. Just because I work for Amazon does not mean I think they're perfect, and I'm very interested to see and hear the arguments that this book makes. I feel like I can work for a company and still feel that it has valid criticisms, and so I'm interested to learn more about those criticisms. And if anything, as an employee, I would love to, you know, help combat some of those criticisms. So with those 3 new books, again, I got 3 free used books. I thought I would use this to get some books that I had never heard about. Don't really know if they're gonna be my thing, but the first one I saw that caught my eye and that I wanted is called Blink by Ted Decker. Sounds like this might be kind of a sci-fi thriller type book. When I looked it up on Goodreads, it also had Christian fiction listed as one of the genres. So very intrigued to see how that comes into play. But on the back it says it's about a man who gets the ability to see multiple potential futures. And then another sci-fi book called Neuromancer by William Gibson. To be honest, I don't really remember what this book was about, but I looked it up on Goodreads and it had actually some pretty good reviews. And this is the shorter one, so excited to read this one relatively quickly. And then the last used book I got for free because I had impulse bought that last Amazon book. And so I was like, quick, give me a recommendation. And so Marisha, the girl who I was at the store with, recommended me The Husband's Secret by Leanne Moriarty. And I've only read, I think, 2 Leanne Moriarty books. The What Alice Forgot and 9 Perfect Strangers are the only ones that come to mind. But Marisha said that she's read, I think, all or nearly all of this author's books, and she's become an auto-buy author, and she said she cried at this one. So I'm nothing if not a sucker for emotional books that make people cry. Other than that, don't know anything about it, but it comes highly recommended from my friend. So those are the books that I got. So excited to read them and really happy that I was able to check out this cute little bookstore. So that's all I got. I will be back when I have an update on either things I've read or things that I've been doing. Hey, you guys, hi. It's been several days since I spoke to you last, actually like a week exactly, I think. We are home now. I'm in my basement. You've never actually seen this view before, but I have a lot to update on. Last week was a really great, just like family week, and it was just a nice, relaxing, refreshing last week before I went back to work. Which, speaking of, today is Monday night. Today was my first day back at work. It was definitely hard to go back, but it felt nice being around, you know, other people, adults again, and getting back into my daily responsibilities. I'm the type of person who likes a routine, so it's nice to have a routine, but of course I missed my babies. What I also did a lot of last week was read, and so I've got quite a few updates. This is not typical of a reading vlog. Usually, you know, I read a book and then talk about it and then read another book and talk about it, but now I have like quite a few books to talk about. I think the last time I did an update on here, I was partway through After by Anna Todd, and I finished. I think I can say what a lot of us think is that it's just objectively not a good book. The writing felt simple and kind of juvenile. The plot was kind of all over the place. Things kind of just kept being repeated and repeated because that's what the Wattpad readers wanted to read, but it's not necessarily what makes a good book plot, if that makes sense. But I do want to say that I do respect how this book came to be made. That Doesn't mean I respect like the content in here. There was a lot of problematic elements surrounding like consent and abusive toxic relationships, which I think definitely should be mentioned to anyone looking to read this book, especially if it's being kind of marketed or mostly read by young teenagers, because obviously we wouldn't want them reading this book and thinking that that is a good, healthy relationship. But anyway, what I was going to say is that I respect the way that this was written, you know, on the internet, on Wattpad, as a fan fiction, probably never intending to be traditionally published, and yet so many people read it and loved it that it did become published. I think that's a really cool opportunity for a writer and kind of an inspiration, you know, if you're somebody who just loves to write but maybe doesn't have the means to publish a book. The fact that something can garner enough buzz to eventually become published and then become, you know, adapted into movie series, I feel like that's somewhat inspirational, and I respect that about this book. So those are my thoughts on After. I rated it 2 stars. No, I'm not going to be continuing on in the series or anything like that. Never thought I would read it in my life, but here we are. And then the next book that I ended up reading is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, and this is a fantasy book. It's an urban fantasy, I think, from what I know about fantasies, which is not much, meaning it's set in the real world. We're following this teenage girl named Bree who is struggling with some stuff. She just lost her mom, or her mom passed away before the book starts, and she's dealing with that, grieving that. And then she gets into this like high school academic program that's at a university for like gifted students. She gets accepted to that, so she goes to that, and while she is there, she finds and becomes a part of this magical society that is magical and hunts monsters. The parts I loved about this book were, not surprisingly, the real life parts. I loved reading about Bree and about her struggles, grieving her mom's death, and even the parts within the society where she was finding things out about her mom and her past. I liked all of that. I thought it was well done. I just couldn't understand all of the magic system. I'm just so not a fantasy person. It's so hard for me to wrap my head around magic systems and the different types of creatures and the different types of magical people, and like whether they're born into it or the other options. That was all confusing to me, but admittedly I never like that, or I'm able to keep that straight in books. So I definitely don't think that I am the target audience for this book, nor did I get the fullest like impact of this book. So it's a little hard to rate because there's nothing wrong with this book, and looking at reviews, people are absolutely in love with this book, which is amazing, and I'm so happy for that. I'm just not the fantasy reader that can enjoy it. So I ended up rating it 3 stars because I was conflicted because of that. That's definitely not a reflection on the book itself or the writing or the story or the characters. Those were all good. It just wasn't the book for me, and I think that's okay. But I hope that nobody out there is offended or hesitant to pick that book up. If you like fantasy, please go read other people's reviews, because mine honestly isn't valid. And then 2 more books that I ended up reading. The first is called Memoirs of a Teenage Amnesiac by Gabrielle Zevin. And this is a contemporary book about a high school girl who falls down the stairs at her school and ends up losing her memory from the past like 4 or 6 years of her life. She's in high school and she can't remember anything past the age of like 12 or 13. And this book is basically just about her dealing with her surroundings and the people around her. She doesn't remember her boyfriend or her best friend or certain things about her family, and so she has to learn what has happened in the past 2 years and deal with that and kind of figure out if she's the same person she was before the accident. It's very deep and philosophical in that, of course, she's, you know, physically the same person, but since she doesn't have those memories, she has different feelings about her relationships and the situations she's in. And so it's an interesting conversation surrounding, like, should she just keep going with the flow of the direction she was headed, or should she change routes now that she has different opinions and she can't guarantee that she'll get her memory back? I really liked it. I had never read a story really like that before, especially not a young adult story like this. I think I've read plenty of adult mystery thrillers about women who lose their memories, but that's different, I think, than losing your memories of your adolescent years when you really are forming your sense of self. I just thought it was a really cool book and had some really cool conversations in there. It wasn't perfect, and there were some parts of it that I kind of got bored with, or I kind of started thinking were repetitive, but I gave that book 4 stars. And then the last book that I read in the last week is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. This is a book that I've had on my physical TBR for quite a while. It's actually the last standalone book by Colleen Hoover that I had yet to read. She does have several series, which I will get to eventually, but I wanted to tackle the standalones first. It's about this girl who is like a young adult and she's going to live with her brother in his apartment, and when she gets there for the first time, she meets this guy who's her brother's neighbor and friend. They have an attraction to each other and they start like a friends with benefits type situation together, and it goes from there. Pretty typical story about you know, them falling in love but not being able to love each other, blah blah blah. One thing I was not expecting from this book was for it to be pretty steamy, actually, especially for Colleen Hoover. In my memory, I can't remember any other books having like multiple somewhat explicit sex scenes, but this one did, in my opinion. I'm not someone who really likes to read steamy scenes all that much, so I was surprised to see so much of that in this book. And then the other part, which I was kind of expecting, is it has the classic Colleen Hoover emotion. Very sad. Specifically, the situation surrounding the guy in this story is very sad. But overall, the book was nothing special to me. It just felt like a very stereotypical love story, you know, friends with benefits story, where you can kind of predict the conflicts before they happen, and you know that there's something that she's not telling you or the characters aren't telling you, and you can kind of start to predict what that's gonna be. So overall, I enjoyed it because I pretty much enjoy every Colleen Hoover book that I read. I love her emotion, I love her writing. They're just so easy to just fly through. I love that, but it wasn't my favorite particular story, which is a bummer, and I think kind of an unpopular opinion. I've seen a lot of my friends and booktubers that I love to watch rate this book super highly. It just wasn't a 5-star book for me, so I gave it 3 stars. So that is it for books that I read. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 books within a week is definitely a solid week for me. But yeah, those are all the books that I have to talk about, and I think that's the rest of the life stuff I have to talk about too. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It felt a little weird to me not having like a theme to the books that I'm reading or a theme to what I'm filming within the confines of like a readathon or something. But let me know if you liked the more laid back, casual approach to vlogging, and we'll see. Maybe I'll try it again when I have a week or a weekend when I don't really have any plans or reading plans or anything. But that is all I have for now, so thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one.